Once you've got some editing clients, it makes sense for you to transition from freelancer to agency owner. But if you do it too early or do it in the wrong order, then you could lose all your clients and find yourself back at square one. If we haven't met already, my name's Sayeef. I've edited for some of the largest YouTubers in the world, and I've helped over 300 video editors scale and get better clients and all that snazz. If you're watching this video isn't for you if you're super new to editing. This is for the editors who already have clients and now they're ready to move on to the next stage. So the main reason you want to make this freelancer to agency owner transition is to be able to make more while spending less time. Now, this sounds like the dream, and truthfully it kind of is, but if you do it in the wrong way, you can find that it becomes even harder than doing everything on your own. So how do you know if you're at the right stage to make this transition? You need to see this process as fractal. Fractals, you may have seen those cool patterns online. It's where you can infinitely zoom into an image and it's like the pattern just keeps repeating. I'll have an animation of it on screen now. And the way that this applies to scaling is what happens in the micro, you'll realize tends to happen in the macro. So if something exists on a small scale, fractal theory says that it will also happen on a big scale. If you want to see some of the best examples of scale at play, look no further than nature. Look at CV. Remember the certain virus that went around? I think YouTube doesn't like it when you say the word, but that virus, what happened was there was a certain area, I believe it was like China or whatever. The virus essentially started spreading in that local area. And once the virus had proof of concept that it worked, the second it went to another country, it spread like wildfire. And the second it goes to another country, it spreads like wildfire. Why? Because if something can happen in the micro, nature says it's already been proven to work in the macro. So if you're struggling to get clients, or you're struggling to meet deadlines, or you're struggling to actually make sure that there's as few revisions as possible, if these are a concern now, when you're still a freelancer or you have very few clients, these problems aren't going to fix themselves when you scale to an agency. No matter how many editors you get, no matter how much you pay them, they are never going to care more about the video than you. And I'm going to show you exactly how to hire editors who actually care about your videos and will deliver you consistent work. But ultimately, there's 3 systems that you need to have in place in order to make this freelancer to agency owner transition as smoothly as possible. Subsystem number 1 is you need a way of getting traffic. Traffic is similar to foot traffic for a physical business, where it's people literally walking past a store. Traffic in an online business context is people literally finding out you exist. At first principles, no one can hire you or pay you if they don't know you exist. So your skill in getting traffic is literally your ability to advertise, to become known. Now, in general, there's going to be 2 types of advertising. You're going to get inbound, which is people coming to you, and you're going to get outbound, which is you going to people. For example, an inbound play might be a referral play, or it could be you building a brand, either a personal brand or a brand based around the agency, which essentially post content to get people to come to them. Outbound is things like outreach, cold calling, door-to-door, etc. These are all ways of getting people to find out you exist. And the ultimate goal of this first system of getting traffic is we just want to be gaining interest. Because the more people that you have interested in your service, the more clients you're going to be able to get. And while 1 to 3 clients is enough to scale to 5, 10K a month as a freelance editor, now that you're trying to scale past that, you're going to need to 2, 3, 4, 5x the original inputs that you were doing, so that you can literally get enough attention to be able to actually fill these editors' calendars so that they have enough work to do. By the way, if right now you aren't tracking your outreach metrics, or you're not sending much outreach at all, I highly recommend get the free outreach tracker. It's in the description. It's completely free. All you do is you put in your email. There'll be a full tutorial explaining how our outreach process works and how to use our free tracker so that you know your metrics and you can move on to the second system. System number 2 is we need a way of converting that traffic that we've just garnished. Because the whole point of you sending outreach or building a brand isn't just to get likes or even get replies or even just get followers. The point is for it to ultimately lead to getting clients. And conversion is exactly that. It's your ability to turn an interested lead into a paying client. Emphasis on paying client, because a lot of people get promised work and consider it a client, when in reality a client's only yours once they've actually paid. So let's walk through how to actually optimize and build this conversion system. There's going to be two main ways that you can close clients. There's going to be over the DMs and there's going to be over calls. Both have their advantages and their disadvantages, and we'll go through them now. The benefit of DMs is it's a lot easier to close people. A lot of people have this thought that, oh, but you can't close high ticket clients over DMs. It's bullshit, don't listen to that. I've closed multiple people where it's literally $1,000 to $2,000 per video, and it was purely over DMs. We didn't have to jump on call. Other benefit is it's a lot easier to scale up operations on that, because you're sending outreach yourself. It's super easy to find a script that's actually working for you and then just putting that into a Word document and giving it to a VA or an appointment setter in the DMs to actually just copy the same script and process that you're using. It's a lot harder to get someone to replicate your call process compared to replicating your DM process. But the cons of DMs is it's a lot harder to objection handle. Objections are where you have pitched someone, they have a problem in their mind where they're like, this is why I can't buy. For example, let's say I'm pitching you, I'm like, hey, based on XYZ that you said, it's going to be 5K for the first month, 3K a month after that. That comes with these deliverables. If you then say, oh, that's too expensive, that's simply an objection that we need to overcome. This isn't a video about sales, but when it comes to money objections, you've generally got two types of money objections. You've got value-based money objections and you have logistic-based money objections. So if someone said, hey, it's too expensive, you'd be like, hey, no worries. When you say it's too expensive, what do you mean? Then they might say, oh, I just can't imagine spending that much. Okay, no worries. When you say you can't imagine spending that much, do you mean you don't feel like what we're giving here is worth the $5,000? Or is it a thing where you feel like it's worth it and you just physically don't have the 5K to spend right now? Can you see how we're seeing if it's a value-based objection or if it's a logistic money-based objection? The reason it's important to clarify and get it in their words is because you never can assume what someone's real objection is. Because someone can say it's too expensive and mean, oh, I just don't think it's worth it. And you can try saying, oh, we'll do half up front and half after. But the thing is, if they don't fundamentally think it's worth it, there's no point. And in the same way, if someone thinks it's worth it but doesn't have the money, there's no point you trying to tell them all the benefits of working together when they physically don't have the money. So it's really important we find out which objection it is and then handle that one accordingly. Typically, you want to handle the value one first. For example, okay, price aside, do you feel like this is worth it? Okay, they'll say yes. Why? Get them to reconfirm why it's worth it. Okay, so if you had XYZ, would you do this? Yes. Why? They confirm why they would want to take action. Okay, and then you go into a financial probe, which is literally just telling them, yo dude, you're saying you want to do it, you're saying we can get you to XYZ goal. Is it cool we just talk about finances and where you're at? That way I can see if I can help out. They'll say yes. You literally just ask them, as least of a blunt way possible, how much do you have on hand? And then you set up either a payment plan or a delayed payment in order to actually close the deal. So you've figured out that there's no longer a value objection. You've isolated it to logistic money and you can handle that. You'll realize this is going to be a lot easier to do on calls rather than DMs, because in DMs, at any one of these stages, someone can ghost you. It's super easy to ignore someone on DMs. A lot harder for someone to ignore you on calls. Like on calls, you can say something as crazy as, okay dude, like walk me through it. Like, what do finances look like at the moment so we can see if this works for you? You're basically asking someone how much money they have. If you ask that over DMs, you're not getting a reply. If you do that over call, if you have built enough rapport, you're fine. You can actually get away with it. The benefits and disadvantages of calls is if you can get good at these, you can get a crazy conversion rate. I've seen upwards of 30-40% on these type of calls. DMs, typically we found around a 10 to 15%. If you can bring people to calls, they can crush. The downside is it takes more skill. So you need to have a script. You need to be able to actually speak a lot more confidently. You're probably going to have to take 50 or 100 calls before you actually get good and get your close rate within the actual metric that you want. So it is a lot harder. And also, there's just a lot more moving parts. Because the funnel for a DM closing process typically looks like this. Either you reached out to them and they've replied, or they've initially come to you, but fundamentally someone sent the first message. It's a very short, like 2 to 5 messages discovery. You've got a 2 message pitch. You've got maybe like a 1 to 5 message objection handle, and then payment. Like payment is basically just 1. Within sort of like 5-10 messages, you can close a client for multiple thousands of dollars a month. With calls, you've got all these little stages that you need to optimize for. First of all, you need to have a landing page where you've got a VSL, a book a call form, and a button, etc. So people can drop a fear. Like the VSL could have a problem, the form could be a problem, the website like design could be a problem. There's all these problems that could come up. Now, once you've done that, you need to have a post-booking sequence. This is where once someone's booked in, what emails do you send them to nurture them, to get them to trust you before the fact and to actually show up. Then once someone's shown up, you need to go through your sales process, so your script. Then you need to go through the objection handling process, and then you need to collect payment. In general, there's just so many more moving parts that you need to take care of when it comes to a call funnel, which is why I honestly just recommend people to start with DMs and only go over to calls once you have to, because you just can't handle the amount of DMs you're taking, or you're just pretty good at jumping on calls. Essentially, we now have a functioning client acquisition machine where we can say, okay, when we do this many inputs, we get this many clients as an output. So for example, right now with the editing layer, the outreach system that we give gets about a 2.5 to like a 3.5% conversion rate. Meaning if you send 100 messages, like cold messages, you'll get on average like 2 to 4 clients. Now, here's the thing. Is that good? Is that bad? The truth is you don't know unless you compare it to your data. If you're getting a number higher than this, amazing. If you're getting a number lower than this, I would look into that. But what this means is if you need 1 client, you know that you can send around 50 messages and you will get 1 client out the other end. Now, the reason this is so useful is because let's say you're scaling up on your own for now. Maybe you're only making 3-4K a month and you need to first get a couple more clients in because you're not at capacity yet. Then you know, okay, I can take on 2 more clients based on my metrics over the last, let's say 30 days or 60 days, because you want to give it enough time. I know I've got let's go on the low end, 2% conversion rate. I know that every 50 messages, I get a new client. I need 2 new clients this month. Therefore, I'm going to double that. And I know I need to send 100 outreach messages. And by the end of the month, I can expect to have at least 2 clients. Because things always go wrong, let's just assume that we need to send 150 because I'd rather be on the safe side and definitely have what I need. I'd rather have too many clients and have to raise my price on one rather than having too little. This would get you to capacity. But the reason it's so damn useful is, let's say you hire a new editor, which we'll talk about in a second, and you know he can handle 4 clients on his own. You now know, okay, on average, when we send 50 outreach messages, we get 1. We need 4 new clients. We need to send 200 outreach messages in order to fill this editor up. Let's say we know that a client on average stays for 3 months. That means every 3 months, we need to replace 1 client, meaning we need to send 50 messages every 3 months, meaning you need to send about, what is that, like 15, 18? Somewhere around there. I'm going to put the squiggly line so my poor maths will be excused. But you know, as long as you send around 18 outreach messages per editor, you can keep them maxed out and you'll have enough clients for them. So do you see how by knowing what your outreach metrics are, by knowing what your input-output equation is, for example, when I send this many outreach, I get this many clients. Or when we post this many times on this cadence, we get this many inbounds and this many clients from the inbound system on average. By having those numbers as you're scaling, you can scale with predictability rather than
I've got a client I've had for 7 months who I got through word of mouth, and hopefully when I hire an editor, I'll be able to figure the outreach thing out.
In fact, I see it all the time where an editor will be at like 2K a month or like 3K a month. And there's months where they're like, oh, I'm hitting 5-6K a month. But there's months where they go to like 2-3K a month. It gets really bad. And the thing is, they're looking at building like a production company or an agency, but they're the only person working in it. It's like sort your own client side out. What I recommend is truthfully get to like 10 12-ish K a month, maybe even like 15 if you want to be on the safe side. Get to 10 to 12K a month and then worry about getting other editors on board. The reason being, let's say you're only making like 5K a month on your own. That is assuming basically 100% profit, putting the Adobe subscription, etc. aside. For an editor, you might be paying them like 2.5, 3K a month if they're doing a lot of work. So you're basically making 2K per editor if you did exactly what you did for yourself on the other person. So you're putting all this extra work in to go from 5K a month to 7K a month and a ton more headache. Not worth it. So that's why I recommend editors to get to 10 to 12 on their own, because when you have another editor, there's going to be natural inefficiencies. They're going to be a bit slower. They're going to be a little more inconsistent than you are. They might not be as good as you are. So that's completely normal. If you can get yourself to 10 to 12, you might be able to get 6 to 8K worth of projects a month for another editor. Let's say you're paying him 2, 3K. Now you're making like 4 to 6K from him, which is now a lot more worth it than a measly 2K a month. Now, in terms of actually getting these editors, let's talk about system number 3 that you need to scale from freelancer to agency, which is delivery. Delivery is, now that you've closed the client, let's make sure he actually gets a good product so we're not absolute scammers. With delivery, a lot of editors, when they're on their own, are pretty good at it. They know that their editing's good, they know that they can give it in on time, but for the editors who aren't able to do those things, where they're late on videos, they're getting a ton of revisions, realize that these things will get worse when you hire an editor. They will not get better. So how do we make sure that these things are solved before you go and hire that first or second or third editor? First of all, you need to do a deep dive on understanding like, why are you being late and what's wrong with the videos right now that are causing you to have a lot of revisions. For example, there's 2 ways to have less revisions. You can either actually fix the mistakes or you use more of a psychological approach. There was a super interesting story by Rory Sutherland. He said it about the London Underground. Essentially, in the UK, they have these trains and people were complaining that the trains took too long. Now, they had the option of spending literally billions of dollars on making the trains faster, or they could spend a couple million and install these time signs where essentially it would tell them like, oh, the next train is in 5 minutes. This was the largest increase in like user satisfaction in the people who are riding trains compared to anything else they've tried other than making trains faster. But the thing is, you essentially get the same result, which is feeling like they're waiting less for trains, but it's cost you a fraction of the price. So oftentimes the obvious answer isn't always correct. Sometimes the psychological answer is cheaper and better. In the same way with minimizing revisions, yes, it might be you have to make the edits better, or it might be a more psychological thing. For example, if you name the project V1 and that's how you hand in the video, of course you're going to get revisions because by calling it V1, you beg the existence of V2. So by simply just calling it final from the first file that you send through, you assume that there's no revisions. In the same way, if you send it through frame.io on the first video, you're literally asking for revisions. So why not send it on Google Drive and only take it to frame once they've actually asked for revisions? So these are all ways that you can minimize these things, but fundamentally, you fix it for yourself. Then there's 2 ways you're going to make sure you can replicate this inside your other editors. Number 1 is you need to create SOPs. This stands for Standard Operating Procedures. What SOPs allow you to do is take your process that right now might be in your mind and put it into a concise document that says exactly how to do things just like you. For example, let's say you cut videos in a certain way. Instead of just hoping the editor does it right when they come onto the team, give them an SOP showing how you cut. What are you thinking about when you're setting up the project? What are you thinking about when you're adding the pauses? For visuals, you might have in your mind sort of an idea of how you animate visuals, but for that editor, there's no way he's going to be able to match your quality if you haven't trained him properly. So if you could write down, hey, this is the time that we add animations. These are how we come up with ideas. This is how we check to make sure that it's actually up to our standard. Here's how we follow the style of that certain creator. These are all things that you can add into these just Word documents, type it all up, Yes, it takes time. I was going to say it doesn't take that long to make, but truthfully, they're a bit of a bitch and pain in the ass to make. But once you've made them, you can use them with every editor you onboard. So that's the first thing, to replicate within editors your skills. You create SOPs. And the second thing is you need to think through incentive structures. Incentives are essentially reasons, motivations that people will do things. For example, if right now I said you will get $10 by sticking through the next 1 minute of video, I have incentivized you to keep watching the video because you'll get $10 out of it. Now, obviously, I don't know you, I don't even know your name, so you're not going to get the $10, but you get the point of incentive. If you can control the incentives at play, you can control how employees actually behave and act. Now, I want to tell you a story of one time I got this completely wrong. So I was working on a channel, we're doing daily uploads, right? And I was an editor at first, then I became more like a team builder. I wasn't the editing manager, I was in charge of like just managing the content. So it was at a point where it was daily uploads. We had 4 editors on the team that we scaled up to, and we had 1 editing manager who was on top of them. The one thing that I told these guys was we want banger videos and we want them daily. Emphasis on daily. And the way that we incentivize the editing manager to want to do his job well and manage his editors well is he'll get a base plus bonus if we've hit that daily target. So if we've uploaded every single day for 30 days, he'll get a certain bonus. The first couple of weeks, every single video was on time and it was great. And then what we realized is when we were looking at the analytics, our metrics started going super strong. Like we had a ton of growth. Then it slowly started plateauing. And then out of nowhere, it just really started dropping down. And we were confused. And it was only after, truthfully, like after a while, which is embarrassing. But it was after a while we looked at the videos because we hadn't checked it in like a week or two. And the quality was basically nothing. Like it was crap compared to what it was a few weeks ago. And we looked at the editing manager and truthfully, we fired him after that because his job was literally to keep quality up. But when we looked back at the situation to understand what went wrong, we looked at the incentive structures. The editors were getting paid per project. The editing manager was getting paid a base, so he'd get paid no matter what, and a bonus if it was done daily, which technically he was doing it daily. Everyone's doing their job, and everyone's doing what they could be doing to maximize their income. So if anything, it's my fault that we didn't set up the incentive structure correctly. Because think about it like this, the easiest way to think through incentive structures is, what is the easiest way someone could cheat the system? For example, let's say you were a school, right? And you wanted to minimize mobile screen time. If the way that you check mobile screen time is you literally check the screen time app at the end of every day and you reward or punish students based on what their screen time in the app is, what are students going to do? Are they actually going to spend less time on their phones, or are they going to find ways to just get the screen time in their app down? So they might use another phone where the screen time goes up, but on the phone that they're given at the end of the day, the screen time's super low. Or they might start going on the school computers and doing whatever craziness or business they're doing over there, because technically that keeps their screen time on the main phone low. So they'll find all these ways to cheat the system. And it's not because the kids are bad, this is just human behavior. It's because the school didn't set the right incentives in order for them to put their screen time down. A better incentive model might have been more through education, where they show people like literally what the benefits are of having less screen time, and not just benefits in terms of what the school thinks they would like, but benefits in terms of what's in the student's best interest. Like they actually want that thing. But the reason this whole editing situation when I hired the team went wrong was because they were being incentivized to get videos done as quickly as possible and not care about quality. This is the best incentive structure that I found for editors to keep delivery to a high standard when I'm hiring editors. You essentially bring them onto a trial period. Now, most editing trials, people think of them like just 1-2 minutes long. When I say trial period, I'm talking 10 videos. This number can change, but multiple videos essentially. And the expectation that you set for this editor when you bring them on is it's going to be 10 videos, and truthfully, these are the things we're looking for. We're looking for your editing skills, so do the videos actually look good? We're looking for your deadline management, so do you get videos done on time? And we're looking for your communication. So do you actually speak to us every single day and keep us in the loop? If you break any of these 3 things within the first 10 videos, we're going to remove you from the team. We're letting you know up front so it doesn't catch you by surprise. Now, let's say you get past the 10 videos. Truthfully, we're doing this with 3 to 5 editors right now alongside you. But let's say you get past that. You're now going to be a junior editor on the team. Now, the benefits of being a junior editor is you are going to get a pay rise. So whatever we were paying you for these videos, you're now going to get paid, let's say $50 more, $100 more per video, whatever it is. After 20 videos, you're now going to be an editor. So now you're a proper editor on the team. Here, you're also going to get another pay rise. Now, after, let's say, 30 videos, you're now going to be a senior editor, where now you get a pay rise and we'll pay for your training. So anytime we think you'd find some software or course useful, we'll go and buy that for you. So this is essentially the career ladder. Now, why did this incentive structure work so well to improve quality, to improve how long people stayed, and just how consistent people were? Because if you know that you're getting a guaranteed pay rise and it's based on the number of videos you do, what does that make you want to do? It makes you want to do as many videos as you can because you want to get to that pay rise as quickly as possible. So you get it done quickly. You get them done at a high quality because we've set the expectation up front of what we want and we've told them we will remove you from the team if XYZ doesn't happen. And it makes them want to stay, because why would you want to leave a team when you know you have a guaranteed pay rise and you've already spent this much time going up the ladder? And in general, they're a lot more motivated to just communicate because they know the faster communication cycles they have, the faster they can get on to the next video, the faster they get to that pay rise, etc. And this, you can go as high as you'd like. You can change these numbers, you can change the names. The names doesn't really matter. But essentially, you always have like a next step for the editor to go into. For example, after this, we had editing manager, and then after we had like editing partner, which had like a percentage of the channel's revenue. So there's all these like little steps that you could have. And this was literally what took us from getting like super bad quality, randomly like it would be inconsistent. Like they would just have editors randomly fall off the face of the earth and stop talking to us. And also, we're able to pay these editors less. The reason being, they might have tried to raise their prices on their own before, and truthfully we would say no because we had other editors, because it didn't make sense for us. They get paid more compared to if they just worked with us on a normal basis or if they worked with someone else. But we pay less compared to what we would otherwise have to pay if we kept an editor that long. Like, it's hard to explain, and rewind if you need to hear that again, but essentially we get to pay less over time, but we are keeping them for longer, which if you're an agency, you want to obviously grow long term. You want to keep your editors for a long time because when you train them, it's a pain in the ass to replace someone. The best part is this took us from having all of these problems to literally getting editors to stay for 1.5 years on average. That's literally on average. So some stayed slightly shorter, a lot stayed higher, but on average it was around 1.5 years, while before we used to have editors leave after 2 months. So think about how much better the delivery was for this channel because of how much longer we're able to keep editors and actually have them using our process with the same clients. So it's the same style, meaning they get better. It's just a much better time, and this is how we kept delivery consistent. All you do once you've got these 3 things sorted is you jam as much damn volume into all of them. Remember that input-output equation that you had for what you need to do to get leads? You keep ramping that up depending on how much you want to take on. Let's say you were running a DM funnel when you were a freelancer. Don't suddenly do a call funnel now that you're an agency. That's stupid. It's like if you find a button that makes you money, why would you suddenly decide to click another button? Like, just keep doing the same thing, but you're doing it at a higher volume. And with delivery, just make sure that you're turning your knowledge into SOPs and you get the right incentive structures in place in order for them to stay and give in quality work. So that's exactly how I would scale from a freelancer to an agency. Truthfully, I recommend only doing this once you've gotten proof of concept with your own career. So once you've hit in like 8, 9, 10K a month plus, and this is essentially the game plan to hit that sort of like 15 to 30K a month range. Now, if you found this video useful, you're gonna love this video here, which explains the exact mindsets that I've found in all of the editors that have hit 10K a month. We've done it with a lot of damn editors now that we've coached. So go click on this video here to see what it actually takes to hit those 10K months.